Hey Reddit, I'm Lily, 27, and my engagement party turned into a complete nightmare. Everything was going perfectly until someone I never even invited barged in, made a scene, and dropped a bombshell that left the entire room in shock. And the worst part, for a split second, even I didn't know what to believe. My fiancé, Ethan, and I had been together for 4 years. He was everything my past relationships weren't. Kind, reliable, and most importantly, drama-free. That last part was about to change. The engagement party was supposed to be perfect. We kept it small, just family and close friends. A rooftop venue, twinkling lights, music softly playing in the background. It was exactly what I wanted. No stress, no drama, just celebrating our future together. What I didn't expect, my past to walk right through the door. The night was going smoothly. Laughter, drinks, toast from friends. Then, just as Ethan and I were about to raise our glasses, the door slammed open. A loud gasp rippled through the crowd. I turned, confused, and my stomach dropped, because standing at the entrance was Vanessa, my stepsister, and from the way she was staring at me, something was very, very wrong. A little backstory. Vanessa and I never got along. She was my dad's wife's daughter from a previous marriage, and from the moment our parents got together, she made it clear she hated me. She was spoiled, manipulative, and loved playing the victim. And the worst part, my dad always took her side. Every single time. I hadn't invited her. I wanted zero drama. But clearly, that was too much to ask. Because there she was, breathing heavily, eyes locked on me. And before I could even ask why she was here, she took a deep breath and yelled, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Ethan is the father of my child." Silence. Complete. Total. Silence. I felt the blood drain from my face. The guests started whispering. Someone gasped. And Ethan? He just stared. Like he couldn't even process what was happening. Vanessa stomped forward, pulling something from her bag, a manila envelope. She slammed it onto the table in front of us. "You thought you could keep this secret forever?" she snapped. The envelope sat there. I was afraid to open it. Ethan finally snapped out of it. His voice was low, steady. "Vanessa, I have no idea what you're talking about." She laughed. "Of course. You'd say that. Liars." Her voice was hysterical now. She turned to the guests, pleading. "I didn't want to do this here, but I had no choice. He's been hiding the truth from me, hiding it from all of us." People were looking at Ethan, then at me, and worst of all, some of them actually looked like they believed her. I swallowed hard. My mind was spinning. This had to be some insane lie, right? But then, why did she look so convinced? Why was she so damn sure of what she was saying? I felt sick, and as I stared at that envelope, knowing that whatever was inside could change everything, one thought ran through my mind. Do I even want to know the truth? I stared at the envelope. The room was dead silent. The whispers had stopped. Every single guest was watching me and Ethan, waiting, expecting us to react. But I couldn't move, because in that moment I realized something. No matter what I said, no matter what Ethan said, people were already choosing sides. And that terrified me. Vanessa crossed her arms. "Well," she sneered, "aren't you going to open it?" Ethan exhaled sharply. "This is ridiculous." But I could hear it. That tiny shake in his voice. And that made me snap out of my shock. I turned to him. "You didn't write?" I whispered. He looked at me, offended. "No. Lily, I swear to you, I have no idea what she's talking about." I wanted to believe him, but Vanessa was smirking, like she had already won, like she was waiting for him to slip up, and my stomach twisted. Before I could respond, my dad stepped forward. He had been silent this whole time, but now he was looking between Vanessa and me, expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he turned to her. "Vanessa, is this true?" My breath caught, because finally, my dad was questioning her. Maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't blindly take her side this time. Maybe he would actually. Of course it's true. Vanessa snapped, cutting off my thoughts. She snatched up the envelope and held it against her chest. I wouldn't be standing here, ruining my own reputation, if I wasn't absolutely sure. She looked at my dad, her eyes wide, pleading. You know me, Dad. You know I wouldn't make something like this up. And just like that, I saw it, the doubt in his face. The moment he started believing her, my heart sank. Before I could say anything, Vanessa turned back to the crowd. She pointed at Ethan. At the very least, shouldn't he have to prove his innocence, she demanded. More whispers, more uncertainty, and my hands clenched into fists, because I could already see it happening. It didn't matter that Ethan denied it. It didn't matter that we had no reason to believe her. The damage was already done. Vanessa must have noticed my expression, because she smirked. Come on, Lily, she said, mockingly sweet. If you really believe him, why not just open the envelope? I stared at her, and in that moment I knew. This wasn't about the baby. This wasn't about Ethan. This was about me. And she was enjoying this. She wanted to humiliate me. In front of everyone. I exhaled slowly. Then I smiled, and I did the last thing she expected. I grabbed the envelope, and I tore it in half. The gasps were immediate. Even Ethan flinched. Vanessa's jaw dropped. You what? I turned to face her, expression calm, voice steady. If this is real, Vanessa, then get a new copy. She froze. If this is true, then you can file for paternity legally. She blinked. But I stepped closer. If this is real, you wouldn't need to make a scene at my engagement party, right? Her face went pale, because now people were seeing it, the cracks in her story, the way she had staged this whole thing. And for the first time, she looked scared. Ethan took my hand, squeezed it, then turned to the guests. If anyone here actually believes this nonsense, feel free to leave. No one moved. Vanessa let out a nervous laugh. This isn't over, Lily, she hissed under her breath. And then she ran, straight out of the venue, leaving behind a room full of people who now saw her for exactly what she was. A liar, a manipulator, and a fool. I should have felt relieved. I should have celebrated. But as I turned to Ethan, I realized something that made my stomach drop. I had seen that expression before, that nervous look, that tiny moment of hesitation. And now, a terrifying thought crept into my mind. What if Vanessa wasn't completely lying? I should have felt relieved. I should have moved on. But I couldn't, because something wasn't sitting right. Not with Ethan, not with Vanessa, and definitely not with that damn envelope. After the party, Ethan and I sat in his car, completely silent. The air felt heavy, like neither of us wanted to be the first one to speak. Then, finally, Lily, you know she's lying, right? I glanced at him, at his tight grip on the steering wheel, at his jaw clenched so hard it looked like it might snap. And for the first time ever, I wasn't sure if I believed him. I swallowed hard. I think she was trying to embarrass me. Yeah. Ethan scoffed. That's an understatement. I hesitated. Then, but the envelope, his hands tightened on the wheel. What about it? I turned in my seat. She looked too confident, Ethan. She came in there ready to ruin everything, and she acted like she had actual proof. Ethan let out a sharp exhale. Because she was faking it, then why didn't she open it? I pressed. Silence. I waited, but Ethan didn't answer. I exhaled. Then, carefully, Ethan, is there even a 1% chance she's telling the truth? His head snapped toward me. What? No. Jesus, Lily. But something in his voice. It wasn't outrage. It was panic. And that set off alarms in my head. That night, Ethan fell asleep immediately. But me? I was wide awake, because for the first time in 4 years, I realized something. I didn't really know Ethan's past. Sure, I knew the basics, where he grew up, his old job, but when it came to past relationships, he never talked about them. He'd brush them off, say they were too complicated, and I never pushed, because I trusted him. But now, that trust had a crack, and I couldn't ignore it. The next day, when Ethan left for work, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone, heart racing. Then, finally, I typed it in, Ethan's full name, and I hit search. At first, nothing weird popped up. Normal social media, LinkedIn, a couple of old articles from his college days. But then, I clicked on an old forum post, one from years ago, and that was where I saw it. The username was anonymous, but the post was about him, describing someone with Ethan's exact age, background, and job. And the story? It was about a guy who ghosted his ex after she got pregnant. I felt my hands go numb, because even though there was no proof it was Ethan, something told me I had just found Vanessa's real source, and I needed to find out the truth. I sat there, staring at the screen, heart pounding, hands shaking. This was insane. Vanessa was a liar. That much I knew. But what if, just what if, this time, she had stumbled onto something real? I read the post again. It was old, almost 6 years ago. No names. Just a story about a guy who bailed on his pregnant girlfriend, disappeared from her life, and left her to raise the baby alone. A baby that, if the timeline matched up, could very well be Vanessa's kid. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I clicked on the user's profile. Inactive, no posts in years. But there was one old comment, mentioning a city. The same city Ethan used to live in before he moved here. Coincidence? Maybe, but I wasn't betting on it. I knew Ethan would be home in a few hours. I had until then to figure this out. So I made a decision. I grabbed my keys, got in my car, and drove straight to the only person who might have answers, Vanessa. I pulled up to Vanessa's apartment, sat in the car for a second, trying to decide if this was the dumbest thing I'd ever done. Then I exhaled and knocked on the door. It took a few minutes, but finally, Vanessa opened it. Her eyes widened. Wow, didn't think you'd show up at my place voluntarily. I crossed my arms. Let's cut the crap. I need to know the truth. She smirked. About what? I gritted my teeth. About your kid. That wiped the smirk right off her face. She hesitated. Then, why do you care? I took a deep breath. Because I think there's a chance you weren't completely lying at the party. That threw her off. For the first time, she looked unsure. Then, carefully, come inside. Vanessa's apartment was a mess. Toys everywhere. Dirty dishes in the sink. But I didn't care. I sat on her couch and looked her in the eye. Tell me everything. She hesitated. Then, it's not Ethan, she said quietly. I blinked. What? She sighed. I lied about that. Ethan's not the father. I felt my entire body relax. But before I could breathe in relief, she kept talking. But I was scammed, and I think your fiancé knows who did it. I froze. What do you mean? Vanessa rubbed her temples. I was young, okay? Stupid. Got involved with someone who wasn't who he said he was. I swallowed hard, and she exhaled. He told me everything I wanted to hear. Promised he'd take care of me, that we'd have a future. Her jaw clenched. Then, the second I told him I was pregnant, he was gone. I frowned. And Ethan? Vanessa hesitated. Then, they were friends. Friends? Ethan had never mentioned a friend like that. Never talked about someone who did something this horrible. But it made sense. Ethan's panic, his avoidance, his hesitation. Maybe he wasn't guilty himself. But Maybe it helped someone disappear. And if that was the case, then how different was he from them? I stood up. I have to go. Vanessa looked at me, surprised. You're not mad. I shook my head. Oh, I'm furious. Just not at her. Not anymore. I was furious at Ethan for keeping this from me, for forcing me to find out like this. I needed to confront him, and I needed to do it now. By the time I got home, Ethan was already there, sitting on the couch, phone in hand. When he saw me, he smiled, like nothing was wrong, like we weren't about to have the most important fight of our lives. Hey, babe. I didn't answer. I dropped my keys, crossed my arms. Then, tell me about your friend. His smile faded instantly. What? I stepped forward. The guy you knew before you moved here. The one who ran away after getting a girl pregnant. His face went pale. And that told me everything. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered. I laughed. Sharp. Cold. Don't lie to me, Ethan. He swallowed. Then, it wasn't my business. I stared at him. You helped him disappear. Silence. Then, I didn't know what else to do, he admitted. I didn't want to be involved, but I shook my head. But you were, and that was all I needed to know. I turned toward the bedroom, started packing my things. Ethan rushed forward. Lily, please. I didn't do anything wrong. I zipped up my bag. Maybe not, but you watched it happen, and you let me think Vanessa was crazy. You let me believe she was making it all up. His hands shook. I was scared. I grabbed my jacket. You should be. Then, without another word, I walked out. It's been 6 months. Ethan tried reaching out. Texts, calls. I ignored them all. Vanessa and I, we're not friends, but we have an understanding now. She apologized. I did too. And for the first time, I feel free. No more lies. No more secrets. No more trusting people who don't deserve it. And honestly, that's the best decision I've ever made.